Hey everybody, we're all here for Bass Musician Magazine, and today we have the extraordinary honor and pleasure of chatting with jazz bassist, songwriter, vocalist Georgia Weber. Yay!
Hi, thanks for having me.
My pleasure, Georgia. So much exciting stuff going on, and I don't want to detract from that, but as always, we like to go to the past. How
Mhm.
did you get started, particularly in music and on bass?
In music, it kind of happened very organically because I guess like my parents noticed when I was really little that I just kept making music, even though I didn't really have anything to do it with. Like I would just constantly sing and sing things that were weird. Like my sister was in a production of West Side Story, and I had to sit through one of her rehearsals one day because I was a kid and needed supervision. And I came back and was like singing the songs from West Side Story, and mom was like, "That's kind of a lot, like to take that take that away." And if there was a recorder or like someone left anything around that I could bang on or make music on, I would do that. So they pretty early on started me in piano lessons, I guess, hoping that I would channel the musicality into something a little more useful and less annoying, perhaps,
Mhm.
at the time. So I started playing piano. I took up clarinet a few years later because there was sort of an option to play a wind instrument in my primary school. And then upright bass was kind of funny because so when I was in eighth grade, the school that I went to, which was a girls' school, always did a bursary strings program that they offered for eighth graders, which is kind of the start of our high school. And I really wanted to play a stringed instrument because I didn't. I also knew that there was no way that my parents would let me play anything other than upright bass, which I realize is kind of unexpected. But they were huge jazz fans. And so there was no way dad was going to sit with me playing violin or viola. Maybe cello would have cut it, but I knew that if I said I wanted to play bass, that they would say yes, despite that meant a lot of driving to and from school. Yeah, kind of amazing. And then once I started playing bass, that was kind of it. Like it just felt like such a natural thing for me, and I just really, really took to it and really enjoyed having that role in orchestra and in band and that kind of thing. And so I continued with the other instruments for a few more years, and then it was pretty clear that bass was my thing, and that's what I ended up studying at the conservatory and really pursuing with my life. Yeah.
Nice. Now, your formal preparation, because again, you studied in Australia,
Mhm.
is was it more directed towards classical? I know you have a jazz inclination, and again,
Mhm.
jazz is related typically to an American music
Yeah.
form. So,
Yep.
how was that preparation in Australia?
So in school, I had classical preparation. I had some really wonderful teachers, but I was already kind of starting to, again, because I grew up listening to jazz, that was kind of
Mhm.
music I always wanted to play. And so I started kind of just doing it, like going to jazz workshops. And then I started while I was still in high school, I was actually at the Young Conservatory, and they're one or two of their jazz ensembles. So I actually did study jazz bass once I went to university. There is a strong school of jazz in Australia. It is different to the
Mhm.
American school because we're not in the same country. We don't have the same history. It's kind of like, I guess, European jazz has its own take and its own history that developed from American jazz. Australia kind of did the same thing. It's kind of like almost, it's a little bit European, it's a little bit American jazz, and it's a little bit something else. But that was part of my drive then to come here. As I got further along as a musician, I really wanted to go to where the roots were. I really wanted to come to where the music that I fell in love with started and get my butt kicked,
Mhm.
and study with the people that I had looked up to since I was a kid, sit in the Village Vanguard where some of my favorite records had been made. They're sacred places for me. And so I really wanted to come here to understand the American jazz tradition and get that more in my playing, which hopefully I have done. I've been here now a while. So hopefully, hopefully I
Nice.
have.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, and coming to New York, I mean, New York is the kind of place that will really, it's a proving ground. It can eat you right up because
Hmm.
you could have an abundance of really good musicians. It's highly competitive. You
Hmm.
have to find your niche there.
Hmm.
And a lot of the people I've talked to, I mean, you could range from people playing in the subways to doing the Broadway shows. And so there's
Hmm.
all of these potential things. So it's wonderful, but by the same token, a lot of people will just fry out because they thought they were great when they got there, but then it's kind of they were a big fish in a little bowl back home, and now they get to the bigger pond, and now they're just a little fish again, and it's very challenging. And
Yeah.
even to that point, there's been a couple of bass players that have authored books on how to be a bass player in New York specifically. I don't think
Mhm.
I've seen that in any other city in the country. It's just like New
Yeah.
York. This is, and so many things are common sense, like have a reliable vehicle, have
Yeah.
a dependable instrument, don't be a flake. Because once you get a reputation in that town, it will stick and you're going to have
Yeah.
issues and trouble.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to be the little fish because I saw that as a way to grow, like to be really like challenged by people around me. And I still, after 12 years, I guess now I've been here, I still really am amazed at the musicians that I get to work with and the quality that they bring to the table. And I've never lost imposter syndrome here. I literally went to see a woman that plays in my band quite regularly. I went and saw her band last week at Mesro, which is one of the great jazz clubs here. And it was just like jaw dropping. Like the band was so good. I was like talking about that bass player for like 3 days. Like it was amazing. So I really kind of lean into that. And it definitely does. It's not great for your self esteem sometimes, but like I just try and see it as like, wow, that's amazing that I even get to be in her space, that I get to play with her sometimes, that she, I'm sure, makes me better because of her skill, all these things. But I think you do really have to embrace that humility because there's always going to be better players. There's always going to be more experienced players. There's always going to be some new guy that comes in who's killing, that takes over all the gigs. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of, you just have to roll with it and really find your people, which is kind of what you said before. Find your niche,
Yes.
find the people that seem to stick with you against all the odds of the city. So, yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, and we should talk a little bit about your group, Georgia Weber and the Sleeved Hearts. It's a
Mm-hmm.
jazz trio.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, very exciting news. You have a new EP coming out, big in Japan,
Yes.
which interestingly enough is embracing more along the lines of Japanese tradition. However, again, you're in New York City. So tell us about this project. What's the inspiration there?
So the band has existed for a little while now, maybe since like 2016 or so. It's been around.
Mhm.
We've had a few changes in members as happens over the years, but it really came out of actually this getting the opportunity to learn from this incredible vocalist, and she calls herself a cultural healer named Damani Azuri, who was really trying to like help younger musicians like find their place in the world. And I realized that what I sort of wanted to bring to the table was the idea that like in the 40s and 50s, the musicians weren't like thinking about what made them jazz, like in inverted commas, I guess. They were just playing music and they were playing it in the way that they knew how. And I guess for me, what made it like jazz was really the spirit of improvisation and freedom. And so I was trying to start a band where we play standards. We also play what I would call modern standards, like songs that everybody knows that have been written in the last 70 years. I mean, that's a pretty long time. And still approach them with that kind of spirit of improvisation and kind of freedom that comes with that without trying to fit into. And I love that music, like that music of the 50s and 60s. I love playing it, but like for myself, it sort of felt a bit disingenuous. I'm not even American.
Yeah.
I didn't come from that background. So trying to bring what is true to me and to musicians around me, but still play with that kind of spirit. Big in Japan kind of happened by accident. So first of all, the guitarist in my band is Japanese. So I'm definitely checking with him regularly about, are we reaching the level of this is not okay? Should I not do this? And he's giving me the seal of approval. But it started because a few years back, I heard this documentary on This American Life about this thing called the wind telephone. So you may remember the tsunami that happened in
Yes.
2015. Huge number of people died, even more were missing. Just before that happened, there was this architect in Japan. He's a landscape architect, and he had set up in his garden this old English telephone booth, like not connected to anything. It just sat there, and he used it as this means of grieving his cousin. Rather, he would go out and talk to his cousin on the phone that didn't connect to anything, and he found that like really kind of like a peaceful way of connecting with his lost one. So when the tsunami happened and there were all of these people grieving and experiencing this huge loss, he opened up his garden to anyone that wanted to come and use the phone. And thousands of people showed up basically at his house and started like having these, telling these stories, talking. I don't even know how to describe it. But this documentary, they had let, it was, I think, originally done, it was a Japanese documentary that was being talked about by This American Life, but they had set up recordings of the conversations people were having. And it was anything from like, I miss you, I love you, where are you, I don't know what to do without you, to like little kids coming on the phone and being like, hey, granddad, I aced my maths test today.
Yeah.
Like, it was just the most overwhelming thing. And so I really wanted to write a song about that, which we did. And then shortly after, kind of as like an accident, I wrote a song about kintsugi, which is the pottery art in Japan, where if something breaks, they actually fill the cracks with gold and put it back together. And the idea is that you're like celebrating that things can be even better after they've kind of had a rough time. And then when I had two songs, it kind of felt like I needed to make it a thing. Like we should just do like a little theme record. So then I spoke to Kenji about, he had actually just been visiting Japan, and I asked him if there was a traditional story that he thought would be nice to kind of write about. And he shared the story of Urashima Taro, which we ended up writing a song about. And then we kind of just connected the rest of it. Kenji does a free improvisation to open the record, and he closes it by playing a children's song called Konobori, which is koi fish, that he remembers singing as a kid when he was at school in Japan. Urashima Taro is also, it was kind of written when I was listening to taiko drumming. So I tried to have that as a theme in, I guess, the rhythm of the piece. And our incredible drummer does a long sort of taiko influenced solo out front of it. So it kind of just like, it was kind of an accident, but once we got going, it felt like just a really nice celebration. And there's so many unique and incredible things in Japanese culture, both modern culture and ancient culture. There's just, I feel like once you start going in that direction, it's just an extraordinary place, and so different from anything I think in Western society that we grow up with. The ideas feel so unique, and it's just like a different way of looking at the world in a way, which is beautiful. Yeah.
Nice.
So that was a long answer.
It's a long double answer. It is a great answer. And one of the amazing things is kind of, as we mentioned, the progression through time, the evolution of music. And again, jazz in itself has a whole history, and that's a whole rabbit hole one could go down. But as you've mentioned, even going to Australia, going to Europe, musicians, being able to geographically go other places, there is a metamorphosis of the music. And I know there are people that would maybe decry that because they feel that it's becoming impure, but I actually celebrate more the evolution of it, because as you add in these other elements, it just expands and grows. And even to the point where a lot of times it's difficult to peg music in a particular genre anymore, because you're going, well, I think a lot of music we hear of Japanese, Asian will maybe fall more in a new age kind of thing. But then you kind of go, but no, but you're a jazz performer, there's these elements, and you've got taiko. So it snowballs into this wonderful new dimension, and it's growing, which is what it really is. I think it's signs of a healthy plant. If it's not growing and it's just staying stagnant, then that's no good. So it's a very, very wonderful thing. Now, as we always like to talk a little bit about gear, and I know as you're an upright player, there may not be a whole lot there as compared to our electrical people. So tell us, what are you playing on? How are you getting your sound?
It's funny because my husband and I own a recording studio together, and he is such a gearhead. Like, I feel like I should just insert him into this conversation for me. And I do have, thanks to him, a couple of really great electrics, which he's told me 10 times what they are and why they're important. And I couldn't tell you a thing about them right now, I'm embarrassed to say. But the upright.
Yes.
I mean, I play a sort of 1930s era German bass, which feels like a French bass. Actually, the shape of it is it's much more French shaped, I would say, than German shaped, but it is a German bass. I guess the and living in New York City, I don't even have a strong feeling about amplifiers anymore because honestly, everywhere I go, they have an amp, or you often play acoustically. So I don't even really take an amp with me anymore. What I do love though, and this is a recent thing, I have never been in love with a string before, but I am right now. I am in love with the Heritage Strings by Colstein, which
Okay.
I found out about from one of my teachers here, Harvey S. He was part of the development of this string. And for years, he was like, Georgia, you got to get a set. You got to get a set. And I'm the worst. I would just like, whatever was around, I would change my strings when it was time. But I did last time around switch them over, and I understand what he's talking about. They're so bouncy and dynamic, and they somehow never lose their intonation even when they get bashed around on the subway. So yeah, I can actually plug gear at this moment. I promise I'm not being paid to do this. I just really love the Heritage strings. They're really incredible. So I think that'll be the one gearhead thing that I stick to now for a while.
Nice, nice. Well, and again, everybody has their simple areas and strings. When a lot of times when I ask about gear, they'll show me hands. They'll go, "This is where the sound is coming from,"
Yeah,
and with that in combination with your string of preference, I mean,
yeah,
there you go. So
yeah.
as we look forward, what's in the works for Georgia Weber and the Sleeved Hearts? I know the EP is coming out.
Yep.
What do we have to look forward to?
We have a busy month this month. So we've actually got the music video coming out this Thursday for Urushimitaro. I'll put that up on YouTube. And then on the 16th at New Blue in New York City, we're doing our CD release for the record that comes out on the 19th. And then actually at the end of this month, so our Japanese guitarist currently resides in Vienna, Austria, because of course. So at the end of this month, we're actually going over to Austria to play with him there. So that's kind of the immediate plans. We also have, I've been sitting on for too long, a bunch of kind of live stuff that we'll probably release videos of, but I've been holding on to it until we get the new material out in its original form, and then we'll release some stuff on YouTube, some live stuff as well. Yeah.
Very nice. Well, and if people want to know what you're up to, where's the best place for them to look?
I mean, the website is always easy because it links to everything. It's georgiawebermusic.com. And then pretty much everything else, like YouTube, Instagram. If you look under Georgia Weber Bass, you can find probably more than you wanted to know. Yeah, but we have a strong sort of Instagram and YouTube, and everything is referenced through the website somewhere.
Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
Georgia, we appreciate you taking time from your busy schedule, finding a moment where you can chat
Yeah.
with us. We're very excited about Big in Japan. Folks, make
Thank you.
sure you check this out. It is maybe not what you're expecting if you're a big jazz fan. It's going to be something unique and beautiful, kind of like the repaired piece of pottery with the
Mhm.
gold. It's stronger than ever. Folks, you've seen her here on Bass Musician Magazine, Georgia Weber.
Thank you so much for having me.